This podcast is brought to you by Raising Mama, a bamboo baby brand dedicated to empowering moms during postpartum and raising awareness about maternal mental health. Raising Mama's buttery soft bamboo pajamas aren't just designed to help babies sleep better, they're made to support mothers too. And for every pair sold, a portion of the proceeds is donated to Postpartum Support International. As a thank you for listening, enjoy 20% off your next order with code RaisingMamaVillage at checkout, because we're all in this together. Coming up,
it takes 3 to 6 months for her hormones to begin to regulate postpartum. And hormones are directly connected with sex. They're sex hormones. There's like 50 some hormones. Lots of them are sex hormones. If those aren't regulated as they, let's just say, were before pregnancy, then right there, the timeline is long.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, mamas.
Welcome back to Raising Mama.
I'm Megan.
And I'm Chelsea.
I'm a divorced mama of 2 toddlers, sharing custody while running my own business.
And I'm a full-time nurse, pregnant with my second baby, and married to a stay-at-home dad.
Join us while we talk about the most pressing issues related to postpartum and new parenthood. Before we dive in, hit the subscribe button for more expert insights and honest conversations on Raising Mama podcast.
Today, we're diving into a topic that doesn't get talked about enough. Why low libido after birth is completely normal and what really causes it. Our guest, Catie Whiting, is a licensed clinical social worker and perinatal mental health therapist specializing in helping moms navigate postpartum, self-worth, and body images. She's here to break down the physiological, emotional, and relational factors that impact intimacy after having a baby, and what moms can do to feel more like themselves again. So let's get into it. Let's talk about sex, baby.
I'm really excited for this episode because I have a special interest in all things sex and libido. And I don't mean it like that, but I have a one of my good family friends is she's South African, so all of her work is in South Africa, and I don't know how much of it gets talked about internationally, but she's a sex therapist, and I grew up hanging out around her, and I feel like my parents always, they told me that she was a sex therapist, and I was trying to process that as a kid, but I think that kind of gave me a little bit of, and I know that you're not a sex therapist, right. Officially we're just your therapist, we're talking about sex, but but I don't know, I feel like just sometimes having a little nugget like that something exists as a profession or as a field of study kind of makes you a little bit more interested in it. So
exactly.
Anyway, yeah.
Since the majority of people probably don't have a family member who's a sex therapist, for everyone else, let's do some myth busting. Why would you say, Catie, that low libido after birth is actually quite normal?
Oh, there's so many factors to low libido after birth. I will say, to bust the myth, the initial myth, my myth, that expectation that everything will go back to normal, that is life, that is your body, that is your mind, is not true. And the normal being whatever maybe you had before pregnancy or whatever expectation you have during pregnancy of what it's going to look like postpartum, that is the biggest thing I see. And one of the myths is that it's all going to be great. I'm going to do it all. It's going to work fabulous. And not to come in negative with it. It's just different than that. And so the biggest myth is that I will be having the exact same fun, however sex was before, but fun 20 sex, just like I did in my early 20s. And it's not true because so much has changed. So that's myth 1 for sure.
Got it. Okay.
Yes.
So the doctor doesn't give you the 6-week checkup and then you're just it's all normal. We're
right.
good to go.
Right.
Okay. And then what is the more realistic timeline? Is there a realistic timeline?
That's a good question. It's so different for everyone because so much goes into play. I will say that the 6-week checkup, which we all know very well, or most of us know very well, where the doctor checks to make sure, they're checking to make sure that your parts, right? Literally your vagina, your uterus, all those parts are working in the way that if you did have intercourse, it would not damage those parts. There is no look into like if it's going to feel good or not, or if your hormones are ready for it, if your brain's ready for it, if you even feel like you have time to do it. So I say that as in 6 weeks, not saying you can't have sex at 6 weeks, but that is just an unrealistic number. It takes 3 to 6 months postpartum just for our hormones to get back to start. So let me say it again. It takes 3 to 6 months for her hormones to begin to regulate postpartum. And hormones are directly connected with sex. They're sex hormones. There's like 50 some hormones. Lots of them are sex hormones. If those aren't regulated as they, let's just say, were before pregnancy, then right there, the timeline is long. So much goes into play. I can't put a time on it, but I would say don't limit, don't set the expectation at 6 weeks. I hope that answers because it's not really black and white.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the hormones a little bit more.
Yeah.
So what are these hormones doing? They're getting you in the mood for it. They're maybe like providing the lubrication needed or sending the signals to send the what's going on with the hormones, and like why would that be impacted by
Pregnancy.
having a baby?
Yeah. Well, there's so much going on with the hormones. And let me say, like, in no way am I a hormone specialist. And I'm glad you talked about sex therapists because that is definitely more in their scope, right? But from my understanding of hormones and the study of it, like progesterone, estrogen, like these are sex hormones and they connect our brain to our body in many ways. And so they help not only our brain function, but they help, lubrication. They help the senses down on the vagina and around the vulva. Like they literally are on or in our vagina themselves. So if you are pregnant, all of these hormones, estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, the stress hormone, they're all like rising, right? They're getting higher and higher in pregnancy so that you can birth a baby, right? Your body is ready to get the baby out and you're like charging up almost. And then when the baby comes out, they're like, oh, we don't need to be here anymore. And so they all start to go down, right? And then depending on if you're breastfeeding and things, these hormones can sort of look like what I call like a zone of chaos. They're just bouncing around like kids at a circus, it feels like. And so if they're directly connected with how like even our vagina feels, how our brain is telling our body to feel, and they're literally bouncing around like little jumping beans, let's say, then everything's going to feel off. And so vaginal dryness is huge. Things might not lube up like they were. You also might just not feel comfortable in your own body because what's happening hormonally isn't what used to happen, right? And so all of that plays into, that was a long way to answer your question, but all of that plays into it when, they're part of the driving force. For women, it's a little bit more because we have a lot of sensory things, but I hope that answers that question in a long way.
Yeah. That was, I think, like the perfect kind of, in a nutshell, explanation of what's going on. And then there's other, like for me, I'd say the biggest libido factor was probably like feeling like an alien in my own body. And I know Chelsea has talked about this too. So, but like what else, what else is going on? We've got hormones, we've got alien in your own body.
Yeah.
I feel like if you've had a baby, that will resonate with you. You'll be like, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, all of it, right? There's, we can go into, the list is endless, but touch out, which we, a lot of us talk about anyways, but and we can use touch out as, the baby's constantly on us, or maybe we have toddlers that constantly need us, but touch out, refer to a lot in my therapy as just like overstimulation, where there's so much to do in such a limited amount of time, whether that's things we have to do, like keep the baby alive, or things that we've added, right? Culture or ourselves has added, like get all the laundry done. Dinner has to be just right. I have to, C, D, E, and F plus A, B, and C. And so that on top of hormones, let's say, is just another factor, and on top of an alien feeling body is just another factor of when you're overstimmed, you become exhausted, right? The brain is done by the end of the day, and you can't even imagine having the capacity to have sex, right? To take the time it does to have sex. So that's not even considering like perhaps you had a traumatic birth, right? Perhaps there was quite a bit of tearing. Perhaps you have a history of sexual abuse and things got or felt bigger once you gave birth. Like there's so much that goes into play that back to the beginning, like it makes complete sense that it going right back to having this perfect sexual life or sexuality is not the normal postpartum.
And I'm curious because Catie, you get the opportunity to talk to people behind closed doors all the time.
Yeah.
If you were to just like slap a percentage on it, what percentage of women do you think struggle possibly with their libido or notice that it's lower? Like if you were just to ballpark a percentage.
So I was thinking about that. And I would say if you are the women that I see that we've identified maybe some postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety, I mean, I have to go back to my client list and think almost 100% have low libido or have mentioned that they have no desire to have sex with a partner. They have no want, that however they put that. I would say that's not as much for those who have not identified maybe some postpartum depression or anxiety. But in the first 3 to 6 months postpartum, I'd say like 75%. Now, some women breastfeeding, actually, there's a certain hormones that are released that can bring on arousal and they are just more sexually active. So there's a percentage there, but that's still, 75% is high.
Right. It's the majority. And here I am, I'm sitting at 39 weeks pregnant here. So woo, I'm really looking forward to this very possible.
I know. Chelsea almost didn't make it today.
I know. And I'm just thinking like, okay, to me, this all makes a lot of sense and makes me feel like much more normal because not only one, we've got these physiological issues, right? Which is your hormones aren't even starting to get back into place 3 to 6 months starting. Number 2, you've just got straight up mental stuff going on. The mental load is insane. And I know for me, if I feel like, well, I've got 6 loads of laundry and I have to change this and I have another kid and then I got to do this and I got to record a podcast. Chances are, logistically, I'm not exactly in this, wonderful mood. And then me personally, like I did express with Megan is, I mean, my body is so different after birth.
Yeah.
And it takes such a long time for me to even be like, this is my body. Like, this looks like a big tub of lard just jiggling around, like it's very hard for me to think of it as like, ooh, look at me. So there's body image. There's just the straight up being tired in the logistics of pregnancy. And then there's, of course, the physiological side. And then I think maybe the last part, like you said, that it was interesting because I didn't think about it till you said it, was trauma. Not everybody, is getting pregnant because they were like super excited to get pregnant with the partner they got pregnant with. They're having all this support at home, or maybe they had this traumatic C-section or whatever. Like there's so much that is weighing on you that it's like, okay, I can give myself some grace if for a little short while, I can take one thing off my list, which is I don't have to be like a sex superstar, which I don't know why we even put it on the list, but we do. I do, it's like doctor said 6 weeks, get it together.
Yeah.
So I think that's really excellent to just let people know that message that like, obviously this is more normal than not normal.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like when you do speak with these women behind closed doors or couples behind closed doors, is there anything that like changed the tide for folks who felt like they just couldn't be touched one more second, had zero interest? Was there anything that you felt like, this helped tip them back to feeling more like their normal selves?
Yeah, that's a good question. It honestly, obviously depends per client, per situation. But, a lot of times when it's how we frame it, right? It's how we look at certain things. Everybody looks at certain things a certain way based on our history, based on what we know. And so a lot of times when I work with women in the postpartum phase, and this can be about anything, but today about sexuality and being sensual and wanting, to have sex with a partner, a lot of times it's viewed through that initial lens. I put it like in a square frame, but that initial lens we talked about, which is like, okay, my doctor gave me the 6-week checkup, it's time, right? And like, then when it doesn't feel good or you don't want it, it sort of turns into, well, I guess this is just how it is now. Like, I have to suck it up and move forward. That's what women do. And so a lot of times I'll hear that. And with time, we try to reframe it into, like, I always say, move it to a circle frame. And in this circle frame, right? One, is it a priority, right? Like, I'm not going to make it an issue for you if it's not. But a lot of times they've brought it up and like, okay, like, what is happening to your body? What are all the factors that could be a part of why there might be low libido, or why you don't really want to climb in next to your husband at night, or, so on and so forth. And a lot of times that seems to be a tipping point when we start to look at it like, it's not necessarily my fault. I get that it's my system that is like, I don't want to have sex, but it's all of these things coming into play. It's not just that I'm a bad wife or a bad mother, which tends to be a lot of where our worth goes as women in general. And so once we flip that frame, it like mixes emotional and logical sides of the brain, and it slows it down to be like, oh, like, yeah, I not only breastfed every 2 hours today, I did 7 loads of laundry, had dinner on, A, B, C, and D. And then my husband's like winking at me after I finally get the baby down with the monitor 2 inches from my head, by the way, right? Because I'm waiting for them to cry. It makes sense why I'm not even starting to be in the mood. Does that help answer that?
Totally. It sounds like one of the best things to help maybe get things back to normal is to reframe the issue.
Absolutely.
And to just get rid of the shame and blame of it. That's a huge first step. Give yourself some grace, but to really just be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
This isn't me. This isn't something now I have to trudge through. It's just like, okay, it's a season of life, and you kind of learn to swim through it versus like, I'm always like gritting through everything. So this is great advice for me. This is perfect. I'm glad we have done exactly right now. So, make sure my husband listens to this.
Do you make him listen to the podcast?
I don't even make him. He just listens because he's
that's sweet. That's what my mom does. Yeah.
Good mama. That's right.
My mom is my emotional equivalent to Chelsea's husband.
Oh my gosh. This has nothing to do with nothing, but I'm going to put this on the record, the audio record. My husband is the most magnificent creature because at like 39 weeks pregnant, I did the most pregnant thing a pregnant person could do. From my car in my driveway to my house, I lost my phone. I lost my phone, all the credit cards, all my medical ID, my California driver's license, lost it, can't find it. And I just start bawling because I'm like, I'm about to deliver and I don't have a phone and I don't have my IDs and and I have to call all these people. And I literally, like a magician, I woke up the next day and he was just like, here, I bought you a new phone. It's all turned on. I already backed everything to the iCloud, so it's all there. And I called all the credit card companies. All the cards are going to come in like a week. And then he had like C's candy and he was like, it's going to be okay.
Okay, see, that would give me a higher libido. Like I would be like,
I was like, oh, what you doing? And he was like, we're not ready for the baby yet.
That's funny. All right. We're going to pause the show for just a minute because I want to share something personal with you. After having my first baby, I felt completely unprepared for how challenging postpartum life would be. I quickly realized that society just doesn't give moms the support we deserve. That's why I created Raising Mama, to make those early days just a little bit easier. Raising Mama pajamas are made from the softest bamboo fabric, engineered with micro gaps to help babies sleep better and give mamas a much needed boost. The prints feature uplifting messages like, Mama, I wished for you, and it's okay to ask for help. Phrases that are meant to prevent those negative thought cycles that so many of us struggle with during postpartum. And because you're a listener of this podcast, I want to give you a special 20% off with the code Raising Mama Village. Plus, every time you buy a pair, we donate $1 to Postpartum Support International to support maternal mental health. Thank you for being a part of this journey with us. Now let's get back to the show. Okay, so
I'm sure that kind of stuff helps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was thinking about, like, I can't remember where I heard this advice, but it was related to like couples in bed and like the husband wanting to get freaky. And like the approach was that instead of them asking you, or or the other way around, whatever, instead of them asking you if you want to have sex, one way to ask or to pose the question is saying like, are you feeling interested in being turned on? Like it was kind of like breaking it into two steps where like you might not be like, horny for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
At the time. And so instead of asking you if you want to have sex, you can simply just ask them if you're interested in kind of getting the juices going so that then later you might be. And so it's more just like talking about an openness. But I thought I would like share that little tidbit because I thought that was really smart. Because I also feel like most people would be like, well, I don't know, like if you can get me there, like why not? Like who wouldn't want to like
let's try.
Yeah.
I love it.
I
And
think
go ahead.
go ahead. I was going to say communication, like I'm glad it's huge, right? And we know that like in a partnership anyways, it's a big thing, but sometimes we just, and I say I've been through it myself. Like I just put myself in these places where I assume that my partner knows, right? Or my partner understands, and sex can tend to be one of those big conversations we don't have. And you got to keep in mind too, like it takes 30 to 60 minutes it can take 30 to 60 minutes for women to orgasm. So like that like quick have sex one and done thing, that's not relevant. That's like porn culture. And so that's part of the communication too. If your hormones are extra all out of the place, like you really got to slow down and take your time, which has to be communicated, right? And probably almost scheduled when you're postpartum. So point being, communication is hugely a key, however it works for you two.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. It's an excellent point. We get so focused on, again, this very like heteronormative view of sex and that it's 6 weeks and do what you got to do. And it's all about like if the male orgasms are good to go. And there's just like such a bigger spectrum to feeling intimate, feeling close, and back rubs and all these things.
Yeah.
And probably when you give a little space for that, you are more likely, you and your partner, to have a better sex life. So
do you think that, like, just kind of tying into this, do you think that having a baby and entering into this, because I feel like you meet, you're dating, like sex is a part of all of that, and then you kind of hit like your stride and your routine, and then like, I mean, I guess unless you could potentially have some medical event happening between then and having your first kid together. But I feel like having the baby is oftentimes the first big event that causes a big change in like sex stuff. Do you think that like this is like a common like thing that couples go through where they like have to totally reevaluate their entire sexual relationship? I mean, I feel like it's like that was sort of true for me because it was like the first time I actually had to like think about it and about what was going on. And then I in turn figured out that there were actually a lot of reasons why I had a low libido that actually existed before. It was just that, I had it was like I was distracted before because I didn't have like a medical or physical reason to not have it. Does that make sense? Like I was kind of pushing through it before.
Yeah.
But then after having a baby, I was like, wait, what? Like, no.
Yeah. I mean, they say like, and I'm not going to say this correctly, but the birthing process, however you birth your baby, like is like this body's awakening, right, to the next chapter. Well, if we look at it through that way, like anything that was maybe covered up or distracted, or even, when we talked about trauma and abuse, like there's memories from a lot of people's past they've put far, far away, but the body remembers. And so it comes out during this birth experience. And you're right. Like then it's like this awakening and you are almost more, I mean, your hormones are for this reason to be more in tune with everything that's happening. And in result, actually putting maybe libido or putting sex on the back burner too, right? Because I'm saying a lot to say, yes, you're sort of reestablishing the whole functioning of it. And then there's, of course, a life. And so time is of the essence now. Like, when are you going to do it? Because the days are really busy and long.
Yeah. If you're reforming your entire identity, your sexual life is part of your identity.
Absolutely.
So it makes sense that this would be pretty common for most people going through birth.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I wanted to ask before I forgot, because I just thought about this, lots of women in my circle of friends have babies much later, 35, 38. And it just dawned on me while you're saying birth is sort of opening up to this new chapter of womanhood, like perimenopause and menopause is also this other big chapter of womanhood.
Yeah.
And have you ever experienced clients that are kind of smashed right in between? Like they've almost given birth and then they're almost sort of in perimenopause.
Mm-hmm.
Does that happen more frequently, or is that just me thinking outside the box?
No, there's a huge, I think there's a huge uptick. I'm not sure, at least for my clients, because women are having babies at a later age in life. And so if we look at like perimenopause happens 7 to 10 years before menopause. So you're looking like closer to 40s, late 30s. Yes, it's a crossover. So going back to the hormone conversation, if perimenopause is your body going hormonally all over the place to prepare for menopause, and postpartum is hormonally trying to get it back together after pregnancy, it can be like this perfect storm.
Whoa.
And it is a lot. And then that's really even harder to dig through, because there's postpartum stuff happening. And then there's your body actually like changing again for the next stage of life. And so it's thick. And actually a lot of those women are really much more predispositioned, almost, they say, to having like mood disorder challenges or low libido, or some of the things we talk about just in postpartum, because it's doubled up. And so absolutely. And it's something to note because there's so many people learning about it now, but you have to sort of acknowledge that it's more complex than even just postpartum at that point.
Yeah, I'm 35, so I wasn't even thinking about me going through perimenopause, but if it starts late 30s, 40s, and I had like another kid,
right,
I'd be totally one of those women.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't even, I don't even think I'd know that is something that could be happening to me. Because I don't know, I think of perimenopause as like.
Are we just not like, are Chelsea and I just not in, I mean, we're both mid 30s. Are we just not in the age group where this gets talked about yet? Because you know how that kind of is. Or is it just like not really talked about that much?
It's not really. I mean, from my perspective, it's not really talked about. Like, I had an aha moment last year when I was running a women's event where they started to talk about it. And I was like, you mean I'm not in postpartum 7 years after giving birth? Like, this might be perimenopause? Like, so it's not being talked about. It is now more so, but they've only like tapped what we really know about it. And so it's still a quiet thing. And then postpartum mixed with perimenopause, like those timeframes, like that is not even out there. So it's new for sure.
Huh. All right, so we all just need to have babies back at 16 again. That's clearly the answer, is what you're saying.
No. No.
I mean, the cool part is,
like, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. Come on.
This is why I feel like women are superheroes, because of all the changes. But honestly, like I will say, for the three of us, like the latest research looks a lot like what we have to do and be aware of in postpartum. So if you've got all your ducks lined up for the postpartum phase and you really understand it, you might be ahead of the game come perimenopause, because it's a lot of the same bizarre hormonal shifts.
Well, that's a silver lining. Do men have perimenopause? Their sex libido stays the same.
Your face.
I mean, that's my whole separate women's health soapbox thing. I can't even, but yeah, I'm sure they do. I feel like they have they don't have periods, but I feel like they have cycles, but that's my, burn my bra type of thing mentality.
Love it. So,
yes.
like, what's a mom to do? Like, is there any way to sort of navigate this on your own, or I feel like if I had a great therapist like you, it would be so helpful because you'd be able to pick up on the things that I'm saying and kind of help, slice and dice these emotions apart so we can tackle things. But like, what's like some advice that you can give moms, or even related to the perimenopause stuff?
Yeah.
Like, can you go get tested for this, or how do you? What do you do if it's been 6 weeks, maybe it's been 10 weeks, 12 weeks, or longer, and you're still really feeling like you have a really low libido and it's starting to cause problems in your relationship because, of course, there's intimacy involved in healthy relationships. What are like some good first steps?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm biased to say, like, if it's to a point where it's hindering, yourself, how you view yourself, how your relationship is going, like it is time. It can't hurt to seek a professional, like perinatal mental health therapists, especially sex therapists, which I have some great friends as well that are sex therapists, and they're just cool people. Like they know what they're talking about and they're here to normalize it. Like I say, for sure, reach out to them. But I go back to that framework, and I might have presented a little like complex, but it's more of like, when we have a challenge, like I have low libido, I don't want to have sex with my partner, there's always more to the story, right? It's always more than just like my vagina's not working or my partner's annoying. Like there's lots of things. And so it's important and hard to do in the 6, 8, 10 weeks postpartum to take an hour and slow down and like look at all of the contributing factors to, let's just say, why by 7 o'clock on a Tuesday, I feel disgusting, tired, whatever words you want to use there. And all I want to do is, climb into bed and close my eyes for as long as I can. So sometimes just slowing down and identifying these things can give us a little bit of power to be like, well, I might not be able to fix my libido tomorrow, but I haven't had an adequate night's sleep in 4 weeks. And if you don't sleep, you're absolutely going to feel too gross to have sex. Like, you all have talked about it before, like sleep and our mood, sleep and how we feel about our body are directly correlated. So I would say that's one thing. And the other thing I use an acronym that I talk about in every client I ever meet, and it's SELFO, SELFO. So sleep, exercise, laughter, food, and outside. And I use that even for people not in postpartum as a baseline. Like if we are not hitting these every day, we're not giving our bodies a chance to have a baseline to then be a new mom, or to then breastfeed every 2 hours, or to have the energy to have sex, or to help our hormones begin to regulate how they need. And so I'll leave everybody with that immediate, which again, not an immediate fix. I'm not going to be crazy horny tomorrow. I mean, maybe, right? But I definitely will begin the process of sort of taking back some of my power of my body, which we feel goes away in postpartum for a little bit, some of us, and really like saying, okay, but I did these 5 things. And when you move and you get outside time, I know that's simple, but that energizes our serotonin. It gets our hormones regulated, sex hormones. Maybe I will want to go, I'll have a little more energy to have sex that night. Does that all make sense?
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always like the most basic fundamentals.
Always.
That,
I know.
That like, but then you need literally a therapist to be like, no, I'm prescribing you 20 minutes in the sunshine. And you're like, what do you know?
Yes.
Really helped me. And so I just think it's so wonderful you came on today because it doesn't get talked about enough.
Yep.
I think it should be normalized. I think that women need to just take one thing off their shoulders. And it's really great too, because it's got me thinking, it's got me thinking that there's other ways to go about my mindset. And if it's really becoming a problem, like to just reach out to a therapist, reach out to a sex therapist, reach out to these people and realize that like, there's many, many ways to go about it other than just like, and this is the new normal.
That's right.
It could be so much better if we just kind of normalize it, talk about it, have more people like you shouting out from the rooftop to S. What was it all?
Oh, selfo. So like selfie, but not IE. So sleep, exercise, laughter, food, outside, selfo.
That's all you need to know, guys. Right there.
Success.
If our listeners want to know more about you, what you got going on, where can they find you?
I'm on Instagram, Catie Whiting, and I have empoweredmotherhood.com. Those are the best places to see what else we have for everybody.
I love it. Well,
And you have a podcast too,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
That whole thing.
I'm so used to being on this side that I'm like, yeah. And and I have a podcast called Unsaid with Catie Whiting, and we literally bring on practitioners and moms just to talk about the things that nobody wants to talk about and normalize, like you said, these conversations so that we don't have to grin it and bear it. We can, live optimal lives.
Hey,
Love it. Thank you so much for coming on and for speaking so openly about this topic, because it's a sensitive one and it can be an embarrassing one, not necessarily for us but for other people. So yeah, it was really nice chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you all so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on future conversations, and follow us on Instagram at Raising Mama Podcast for more updates, resources, and a peek behind the scenes. See you next time.